Welcome to another behind the scenes peek at the making of In the Waiting, my new Bible study. And this little tidbit I wanted to talk about just because there's a reality to writing books and Bible studies that non writers may not know about. And that's the fact that whenever I work through a Bible study, I have to work through the content myself first. And that's not just going through scripture, finding all the notes and pulling it out. I experienced this study before anybody else, before it's ever really written. And that means some of the content's really hard to swallow. When you're writing a study on waiting, you're going to be tested with waiting, and you're going to have to deal with the emotions of waiting. And it stirred up a lot of different things that I had to converse with God about in my own seasons of waiting. And one of the hardest days to write was the day where we talk about Caleb, where the waiting is not your fault. And I remember the day I was working on this study, I was sitting in a Panera before the pandemic happened, where you could go and sit and work in a Panera. And I was sitting there and I was like, okay, I have to write this out. And so I had my Bible and I was reading through the passage about Caleb, where he and Joshua and 10 other spies are sent into the land, the promised land by Moses, to kind of get a lay of the land and then come back and report so they could make a plan in going into the land. And unfortunately, when they all came back, Joshua and Caleb were all, yeah, let's go take this land. We can do this. The Lord is with us. And the other 10 men were saying, no, we're going to be sitting ducks out there. Those people are huge. We cannot possibly take them on. We're a small people. And as a result, those 10 men swayed the rest of the nation to fear. And they didn't end up entering the promised land. That whole generation died off, except for Caleb and Joshua, who 40 years later did get to enter the promised land, which God promised to them because of their faithfulness and their trust in him. But that's 40 years that Caleb had to wait because of the choices of other people. And I don't know about you, but I have had those times where I am left waiting or wanting because of the choices other people have made. And it's a reality of life. Uh, we're not islands. We don't live apart from people. We live in community, and the actions and decisions of others will affect us, even if we're being faithful. And that was when I was writing out, accounting the story, recounting the story, and getting to the point of application of what do we do with this. One of the things that came out very strongly was have grace for yourself and for the people who have made choices that have left you waiting, and be honest with God about it, and trust that what He has promised to you, while it may be delayed by the choices of others in your community, He will still deliver on it. And so there is a hard sense of, yes, we're waiting now. And there is a sense where we need to tackle the bitterness that can come when other people have affected us, yet we've been faithful. And there's a call to keep being faithful. Caleb had an opportunity to be very bitter toward his people. Instead, he rose up as a great leader, and his children as great leaders as well. One of his sons, I believe, became the first, or one of the first judges in the book of Judges after Israel has entered the promised land. So he had a generational impact as well by remaining faithful to God and not letting bitterness take root. So whenever I'm writing, I'm having to wrestle out this content as well. And I'm having to go through it first. And sometimes it's really hard. And there are things that end up, Caleb's story being one of them, that end up in the final product that I really had to wrestle with and I had to sit with for a long time before I had the words, or I had the right words in order to communicate it. So if you're finding some things, some days of study, some stories as you're reading that are really challenging to you, know that you're not alone. These are challenging to me too. And allow yourself the space to sit with them instead of rushing through to the next thing. But allow yourself to sit and wrestle, because these are hard things. And we want to make sure that we're engaging with God as we work through this study too.